Now let's summarize the ideas around using action to conquer fear and to build confidence and get moving towards success. First, be active, not passive. Strive to be someone who does things. Be a doer, not a don'ter. Don't wait until conditions are perfect to act. Conditions will never be perfect. Expect future obstacles and difficulties and solve them as they arise. Remember that ideas alone won't bring success. It's important to dream, but your ideas have value only when you act on them. Use action to cure fear and gain confidence. Do what you fear doing, and the fear of doing it disappears. Try it and see. Don't waste time getting ready to act. If you have trouble getting started, use the mechanical method to move your spirit. Don't wait for the spirit.
We're talking about self-confidence and the things that help build it, as well as the things that can destroy it. One of the major obstacles to building self-confidence is often your own memory. Lack of confidence is one result of what I call a mismanaged memory. Here's how a mismanaged memory works.
Your brain is a lot like a bank. Every day you make thought deposits in your mind bank, and these thought deposits grow and become your memory. When you settle down to think, or when you face a problem, in effect you say to your memory bank, "What do I already know about this?" Your memory bank automatically answers and supplies you with bits of information relating to this situation that you've deposited on previous occasions. Your memory, then, is the basic supplier of raw material for your new thought. Now, the teller in this memory bank of yours is very reliable. He does exactly what you tell him to do. If you approach him and say, "Mr. Teller, let me withdraw some thoughts I deposited in the past proving I'm inferior to just about everybody else," he'll say, "Right away, sir. Recall how you failed 2 times previously when you tried this? Recall what your 6th grade teacher told you about your inability to accomplish things? Recall what you overheard your fellow workers saying about you last week?" And so on and so forth. This teller will continue digging out of your brain thought after thought that proves you're inadequate. But suppose you visit this memory teller and you give him this request. "Mr. Teller, I face a difficult situation. Can you supply me with any thoughts that will give me reassurance?" And again, the teller says, "Right away, sir." But this time, he delivers thoughts you deposited earlier that say you can succeed. Recall that excellent job you did in a similar situation before? Recall how much confidence Mr. Sawyer placed in you. Recall the respect your friends have given you for your abilities in this area, and so forth. Your teller lets you withdraw the thought deposits that you want to withdraw. After all, it's your bank. So there are 2 specific things you can do to build confidence through efficient management of your memory bank. First, deposit only positive thoughts in your memory bank. After all, everyone faces plenty of unpleasant, embarrassing, and discouraging situations. But unsuccessful and successful people deal with these situations in opposite ways. Unsuccessful people dwell on them and make them prominent in their memory. They don't take their minds away from them. At night, the unpleasant situation is often the last thing they think about. Successful people, on the other hand, don't give these situations another thought. Once they've gotten through them, they don't put them in the forefront of their memories. Quite the contrary. Successful people specialize in putting positive thoughts into their memory banks. Imagine what would happen to your car's engine if you scooped up a handful of dirt every morning and put it into the crankcase. That engine would soon be a mess. It wouldn't be able to do what you wanted it to. Negative thoughts have the same effect on your mind and your confidence. They produce needless wear and tear on your mental motor. They put you on the side of the road while others drive ahead. So get in the habit of depositing positive thoughts into your memory bank. Just before you go to sleep, count your blessings. Recall the many good things you can be thankful for. Your family, your friends, your health. Recall the good things you saw people do today and the good things you heard them say. Recall your own personal victories and accomplishments, large and small. Go over the reasons why you're glad to be alive. The second thing you can do to build confidence through efficient management of your memory bank is to withdraw only positive thoughts from it. When you're alone with your thoughts, driving your car or having a quick lunch, or maybe on a business trip alone in the evening, don't dwell on whatever problems or troubles may be in your life at the moment. Remember instead the positive things, the good times you've had, the successes, the reasons that you're doing as well as you are. Mental health professionals tell us that some people create, in effect, their own private museums of mental horror by excluding positive thoughts from their memories and dwelling on negative ones to the point of obsession. These are obviously extreme cases, but many of us tip the balance to the negative in our memory banks, and that can often impede our personal progress. And whether the psychological problem is big or little, the cure comes when you learn to quit drawing negatives from your memory bank and draw positives instead. Don't build mental monsters. Refuse to withdraw unpleasant thoughts from your memory bank. When you remember situations of any kind, concentrate on the good part of the experience. Forget the bad. If you find yourself thinking about the negative side, turn your mind to something else. Take a nap, go for a bike ride, work in the yard. You don't need negative thoughts. You can live much better on a pure diet of positive ones. The encouraging thing that you'll discover if you practice these attitudes is that your mind will cooperate with you. Your mind really doesn't want the negative thoughts. If you ignore them, your teller will eventually cancel them out of your memory bank.
One of the most common mental monsters we build is our impression of other people and how we measure up to them. People often fear other people. Why is it? Why do so many people feel self-conscious around other people? And what can we do about it? Fear of other people is a big, big fear. But there is one way to conquer it. You can overcome that fear if you learn to put people into proper perspective.
I remember when I was inducted into the Army back in 1942, I was a very shy, confused young man, and I thought that everybody was bigger than I was, stronger, smarter, in every way superior to me. And my experience in the induction center really taught me something different. I saw maybe 1,000 people come through there who were tall, skinny, smart, dumb. In any event, they were all just almost as confused as I was. In fact, in many cases, much more confused. So I started gaining a sense of worth about myself, realizing that the people that are my peers are just as confused and just as scared as I am about this world that we're entering into.
When this event became real is when you enrolled yourself. Before that, it was an idea. And there's lots of people who intended to be here, but they never locked it in. So I lock it in advance, because if I hadn't locked it in after Date with Destiny, there's no way I would have got on a plane, flown all the way there, and then put myself in a room for 7 days and nights. But I'm grateful I did. And I only did it because I already locked it in place. So I encourage you, number one, figure out at least twice a year, what are you going to go to that's going to make you grow and expand? How many of you feel like these last couple of days have been some of the most growth you've had in a couple of days here? Say aye. Then why settle for this one time? Again, I'm happy to do it with you. I have other programs if you want to come, but you're not limited to me. I don't care where you go. But before you leave here, you should schedule what's next. Do you know why? Because how many were looking forward to this for a long time and very excited about this? I'm curious. How many were quite scared about this shit? By the way, I'm curious. But here's what's interesting. After you achieve a goal, have you ever done this? Worked your ass off, achieved a goal, and you feel good, and then there's kind of a drop. Because we need something compelling to be going after, so we keep growing. So I always, right before I achieve a goal, I immediately set what the next thing is, and I lock it in my schedule, because otherwise there's that drop. And if I have the next thing, it's like you're going from peak to peak, as opposed to peak to drop to peak to drop. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say aye. And the other thing I've learned, I taught this to all my children. And one time my daughter was talking to me, and she's like, Dad, you're so brilliant. And I said, you're absolutely right. And I said, honey, I am a smart human being. I've worked hard to be a smart human being, but probably my greatest gift is I do not let opportunity escape my grasp. If there's an opportunity and it scares me, if there's an opportunity and I don't have the time, if there's an opportunity and I don't have the money, in the early days of my life, all three of them, I didn't have time, the money, and I was fearful. I make myself do it because I know that if I don't get myself to do that, I'm not going to keep growing. My teacher, Jim Rohn, used to teach me this. He said, Tony, if you really want to have an amazing life, you got to learn to stretch yourself. I said, well, I do stretch myself. He goes, well, let me give you my philosophy of stretching. He said, stretching means if you find yourself saying, I can't do something, then you must say, I must do it immediately and do it with no hesitancy. Because if you hesitate, it's like the firewalk. If you went up to the firewalk, most of you got up there, made your move and rocked. Some of you got up there and were like, fuck, oh, shit, oh, what am I doing here? And the longer you wait, the what it is. harder it is. So you just train yourself to just do it. Instinctively push yourself. So if I say I can't, then I must. Now, when he first told me this, I said, well, if I can't, I must. If I can't jump off a cliff, then I must. He said, no, be intelligent. But he said, if you find yourself saying, I can't do something, I don't want to do something, but you know if you made yourself do it, you're going to be a better human being, then you must do it. Don't hesitate, do it immediately. And so some people say, well, that's not a very safe life. That's not a very secure life. If you want security, go to prison. If you want freedom, this is how you live. So once you've got events where you're going to make huge growth, the next thing you want to do, throw it up to number 2, is you really want to get yourself a coach or a mentor. Why do you want a coach or a mentor? You're smart. Well, I got a series of mentors. I've got 3 men in my life who are the smartest humans I know, some of the most successful people in the world in business, spiritually, emotionally well-developed. They're 18 to 20 years my senior. And guess what? I come to them all the time for accountability and feedback. Because as much as I know to drive myself, you don't do brain surgery on yourself even if you're a brain surgeon. Does it make sense? You need some feedback from the outside because you're still in it. And so getting a coach is critical. Now I get paid $1 million a year to coach someone and I only take on 7 clients and I got now a 5-year waiting list. So I'm not looking for any coaching clients. But I've trained all of my coaches to do the same things I do and they don't charge $1 million a year, not even close. So you can use our coaches if you want or someone else, but what you don't want to do is have a friend be your coach. Why? I'll give you an example. A few years back, I was on this talk show that's in the morning. I won't mention the name, but it has a bunch of ladies. What's the name of it? The View. That's right. I won't mention it. And I was on The View, and it was when Barbara Walters was still on, and Barbara's a brilliant, amazing lady. And they had me on in January, and I was doing a piece on New Year, New Life, how to transform your energy and your body. And when I was done talking, it was a little 7-minute segment. All 5 women, I guess it was, 5 women followed me into the green room, literally, during the break. And they said, listen, before the TV comes back on, we want to do this. You know, tell us more. How are we going to do this? And we want to do this together. And when they said they wanted to do it together, I was like, hold it. I said, can I be direct with you on this? I said, Barbara, you know how much I respect you and all of you, but can I be direct? They said, well, yeah. I said, well, I respect you. You're some of the best in the world at what you do as journalists. I said, you have an incredible show, #1 radio show. You've been in the years. Barbara, you're a role model for anyone who wants to be successful, man or woman, but there's an area of your life none of you have mastered, your body. I'm not being harsh. I have to tell the truth because the truth is how you get to the things to change. And you should have seen him look around and be like, oh my God, he just said we're fat. I didn't say they're fat. I said you haven't mastered this area of your life. And I said, here's the problem. If you guys get together now and none of you have mastered this area and you're all friends, you'll do this for 2 or 3 days, but about the 3rd or 4th day in, one of you's going to go, I want to go to Starbucks and have a mocha smocha something, whatever that shit's called, right? And someone else can say, no, we got to work out. And they go, but can't we just stop for a few minutes? And then someone else will say, well, we could stop for a few minutes. And then you're fucked. Because you'll break the pattern. I said, have you ever done this before? And they started shaking their heads. They said, it's happened multiple times. I said, don't do this together. I know you love each other. That's why you shouldn't do it together. Get a professional. When you go, I want to mocha smoke, they go, shut the fuck up and run! You need someone who's not going to listen to your bullshit and is going to push you until you develop the discipline, until you develop the skill. And even then, they're going to know the little things, the 2-millimeter things you don't know that could save you a decade. How many follow this? Say aye. So don't get a good coach, get an outstanding one. And the problem is I created the coaching industry. Before I came along, no one called himself a coach in this industry. There wasn't this industry. You got to be a therapist and you got to prove by insurance. And I came along and said, these therapists are sitting down with people for 7 effing years and I can wipe out that phobia in 20 minutes or an hour. And so I went around and I said, I got to figure out who I am. I'm not a motivator. I never was. You know, I'm not a guru. What am I? And I thought, well, as an athlete, who influenced me the most were my coaches. And many of them were not as good as I was, but I'm in the game. I'm in the forest. They're outside of it. They could see things and give me cues, and they cared about me. So I said, that's what I am. Forget athletics. I'm a coach. I love people. I'm not better than they are, but I'm going to see things they can't see because this is my focus, right? And so I did that, and for many years I called myself a coach. No one did, and I remember I was on Larry King Live, and I just started coaching President Clinton, and he goes, what is this coaching thing? You're not a coach. You don't coach athletes. I said, well, actually I do. But I said, no, here's what I mean by coach. And I was about to give it up. up, and like within the next 6 months, everybody was a coach. Therapists started calling themselves coaches. Financial planners started calling themselves coaches. It became a term of art. Now I hate it. You know why? There's no standard, right? Anybody can say they'll call themselves a coach. Anybody go out there and do it. They go to some class, some idiot teaches them 3 skills. They've never produced the fucking result in their life, and they're a coach. So I feel like I created a bastard industry. And so like any industry, there's good and bad. You got to find somebody who's outstanding. Don't settle for somebody's good, and don't settle for somebody because you like them. Because liking them is a nice thing. You need somebody who has the skill to get you there. Who's with me on this? Say I. And why do we want to coach? So you measure at least twice a month, some of you 3 times a month. Because if you don't measure, you can't manage what you don't measure. Does that make sense? And you got to measure it, and it's easy with your children, with your life, with your businesses. You're going to get caught up. You need somebody helping you to stay on target for what you want for your life. How many follow? Say I. And it's cheap. Most coaching is inexpensive, and the people that overcharge, don't go to them. But get somebody who's really great. And then finally, thirdly, and this is what I want to show you this morning, you need a daily practice. And a daily practice that's going to put you in the best state possible regularly. And so there's 2 parts of the daily practice. One is you want to feed your mind every day for at least 30 minutes. And when I say feed your mind, my teacher Jim Rohn used to say, miss a meal, but don't miss reading for 30 minutes. And I don't mean reading the web or your social media bullshit or Twitter. I mean reading a real book that you've selected because it's going to make you grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially. Something that makes you think, something that gives you a strategy, not some cute little blog post that you can read in 5 minutes. I mean something that's going to make you not be mental candy, something that's going to produce a different result. Because our lives are the result of the input. Input a bunch of garbage, you get garbage out. So I would like never miss reading, and then I started listening to audios when I was really young. And the great thing about audios is you can do what I call net time, no extra time. So the biggest challenge we have is when am I going to read? When am I going to do this? When am I going to do all these things? The answer is it doesn't take any extra time. If you use net time, you can do it while you're cleaning the house, while you're working out, going for a walk, when you're driving in your car, should be your new university, where you're feeding your mind. Because if you don't feed your mind, weeds grow automatically. You don't have to work on growing weeds. They're going to be there if you don't do something to replace it. So every day, 30 minutes of either audio or a book, something that's going to make you grow. It'll feed your mind. It'll keep the momentum going. So this won't be just the one burst. This will be the one that got you going. And then you keep the momentum by doing this. And then finally, and most importantly, many people, the most silly question I'm asked in the media all the time for 40 years is, don't you have bad days? Don't you get upset? Don't these things happen? Of course, but I said I don't stay there. I've trained myself like an athlete trains their muscles. I've trained my emotional muscles, which, by the way, I think your emotional and spiritual muscles are the most important ones. Courage unused, does it grow or shrink? Which one? Faith unemployed, unused, does it grow or diminish? Diminishes. Passion unexpressed, does it expand or shrink? So the most important muscles that change your life are those mental, emotional, spiritual muscles. If we develop them more, we're going to experience more. So the way I do that is through a process I call priming. And this is the part that I really want you to get because it's really simple. Most of us, have you ever seen someone do something and thought to yourself, what the F is wrong with this idiot? Who's ever had that thought? How many of you ever done something yourself and thought, what the F am I doing? Okay? Many times we think we're thinking our own thoughts when we're not. We've been primed by the environment to think a certain way and we don't even realize it. Now, sometimes that's done consciously by marketers or advertisers. That's a simplistic example. But a more powerful example is what happens in your daily life. So let me give you a couple examples so you become aware of the power of priming. And then I want to show you how you can consciously prime your own mind and body and emotion so you naturally go where you want to go as opposed to hoping you go there. So some of the studies on priming have shown that what you think are your thoughts actually got there because something in the environment that you're no longer noticing. So an example of this would be, they did a study and they took 2 actors and they both approached 100 people each, and the actors were designed to do the exact same thing. They walk up to people, they have the same facial expression, and they'd say, well, you're sitting there, excuse me, could you hold this for me for 1 second while I grab my phone? And they hand you this cup of coffee. And then they reach in their pocket to get their phone for 2 seconds, and they put it back real fast, and they go, thank you so much, and they take it back. And every time they did it exactly the same way with all the people, 200 people, 100 each. Each person did 100 people, but 50 of those people they gave hot coffee to. 50 of the people they gave iced coffee to. Now listen to this. This is mind-boggling. After 35 to 45 minutes roughly, a person walks by outdoors or at the mall, wherever they did this. They have a checkboard, clipboard, And they go, excuse me, we'll give you $20 if you'll give us 3 minutes of your time to read these 3 paragraphs and answer 2 questions. 95% of people do it. $20, 3 minutes, I'll do it. And they read these 3 paragraphs, which is this story about this main protagonist. And then the 2 questions are, tell us what's the first emotion that you link to the main character, and what's the second one? Those are the 2 questions. When they do this with people they handed hot coffee to, 80% of the people, 81% to be exact, roughly 81, say that the person they read the story about is generous and warm. Sometimes they add the word loving, but generous and warm is always there. The people who had the exact same presentation 34 or 40 minutes earlier were given iced coffee, 80%, there's a 1% difference, which is statistically irrelevant. 80% of them say the person is cold and uncaring. And the only difference is 35 or 40 minutes earlier, somebody handed you a hot or cold cup of coffee. That's wild, isn't it?